Hello everyone, welcome back to Relax History AI. Beneath the dark, deep waters of the Atlantic Ocean, the legendary Titanic still lies in silence. More than a century has passed, yet the story of the ship and the people aboard that fateful voyage continues to echo. From Captain Edward Smith, the dedicated designer Thomas Andrews, the eternal love of Ida Straus, the courage of Molly Brown, the immense wealth of John Jacob Astor IV, to the countless unnamed passengers who carried dreams of a new life. Today, thanks to the groundbreaking power of AI technology, we bring these faces back to life, more vivid than ever before. Now, relax and discover the story of each character aboard the legendary Titanic.
Number 1.
Edward John Smith, 1850–1912, was the captain of RMS Titanic, famously known as the Captain of Millionaires. Born in England, he began his maritime career at the age of 17 as an apprentice sailor and joined the White Star Line in 1880. With extensive experience and a calm demeanor, Smith commanded several luxury ships and was trusted with the prestigious role of leading Titanic on its highly anticipated maiden voyage. Smith was appointed captain of the Titanic by the White Star Line due to his extensive experience and impeccable reputation. He personally commanded the ship on its maiden voyage from Southampton to New York. As the highest-ranking officer, Smith displayed a calm and serious demeanor and was deeply respected by both passengers and crew. When the Titanic sank, Smith was described as calm to the very end, directing the evacuation and encouraging his crew. He refused a lifeboat, choosing to stay with the ship. Witnesses said they last saw him standing on the bridge. He vanished that fateful night and is honored as a symbol of duty and courage.
Number 2.
Thomas Andrews, 1873–1912, was the chief architect of the RMS Titanic and one of the unsung heroes of the most famous maritime disaster of the 20th century. Born in Northern Ireland into a prominent family, he joined the shipbuilding firm Harland and Wolff at the age of 16 and quickly showed exceptional talent. Andrews was placed in charge of designing and finishing the Titanic, the ship that was dubbed Unsinkable. Thomas Andrews was aboard the Titanic on its maiden voyage as the chief architect and technical representative of the shipbuilder, responsible for making sure everything ran smoothly. As a man of the company, he regularly inspected the ship, listened to feedback from passengers and crew, and showed total dedication to his work and the safety of the vessel. When the Titanic struck the iceberg, Thomas Andrews quickly assessed the damage and warned the captain the ship would sink. In the final moments, he calmed passengers, guided them to lifeboats, and gave his life jacket to someone else. He refused to leave the ship and stayed until the very end. A memorial was built in his hometown of Comber to honor his courage and his deep sense of duty.
Number 3.
Wallace Hartley, 1878–1912, was a British violinist and bandleader, born in Lancashire into a music-loving family. After graduating from the Royal College of Music, he performed on several major ocean liners, before leading the 8-member band aboard the Titanic. Respected for his talent and calm demeanor, Hartley was the ideal example of a dedicated bandmaster in the luxurious world of maritime travel. Wallace Hartley boarded the Titanic at Southampton on April 10, 1912. He was invited by the White Star Line to serve as bandmaster and lead a group of 8 musicians. He was assigned to second-class accommodations on E-deck. Before this, Hartley had performed on several Cunard Line ships. Though hesitant to leave his fiancée, he accepted the offer, hoping the Titanic would bring new career opportunities. When the Titanic struck the iceberg and began to sink, Wallace Hartley and his band chose not to flee. They continued playing music on deck to calm the passengers in the midst of chaos. Many survivors said the final song they played was "Nearer, My God, to Thee." His body was found days later, still carrying his violin case. He was buried in Cologne, where a memorial was built to honor his bravery.
Number 4.
Margaret Molly Brown, 1867–1932, was an American social activist and humanitarian, born into a working-class family in Hannibal, Missouri. She began working at a young age and later married J.J. Brown, a successful mining engineer. Despite her wealth, she remained deeply committed to charity work, advocating for women's rights, education reform, and labor conditions. Molly was admired for her compassion, strong will, and independent spirit. Before the Titanic disaster, Margaret Brown was traveling in Europe with her family. When she received news that her son was ill, she decided to return to America early. She boarded the Titanic in Cherbourg, France, with a first-class ticket, bound for Denver, Colorado. What seemed like a normal journey home became a turning point, linking her forever to one of the greatest maritime disasters in history. When the Titanic sank, Molly Brown showed extraordinary courage. She only boarded a lifeboat after making sure that women and children were safe. On lifeboat number 6, she urged the crew to return, to rescue more people, despite resistance. After the disaster, she fought for the rights of survivors. She died in 1932 and was honored with a statue in Denver, a symbol of unshakable bravery.
Number 5.
Father Thomas Byles, 1870–1912, born Russell Davids Byles, was born in Yorkshire, England. After converting to Catholicism in 1894, he changed his name to Thomas and was ordained a priest in 1902. He studied at Oxford University and the Pontifical Beda College in Rome, distinguished for his intellectual brilliance. As parish priest of St. Helen's Church in Essex, he was respected for his compassion, humility, and devotion to community service. He boarded the Titanic as a second-class passenger to travel to New York to officiate the wedding of his brother William. It was his first time crossing the Atlantic. Throughout the voyage, he regularly celebrated Mass and administered sacraments to Catholic passengers, regardless of social status. This journey, originally meant to be a family occasion, ultimately became a symbol of profound faith and sacrifice. When the ship sank, Byles refused a place on a lifeboat twice. He stayed behind to hear confessions, pray, and comfort passengers who were trapped. Witnesses recalled him reciting prayers for the dying and offering final blessings as water flooded the deck. He perished with the ship, and his body was never recovered. But his selfless actions became a lasting symbol of faith and compassion. A memorial honoring him was erected at St. Helen's Church in Chipping Norton, Oxfordshire, England.
Number 6.
J. Bruce Ismay, 1862–1937, was a British businessman and chairman of the White Star Line, playing a central role in conceiving and developing RMS Titanic as a pinnacle of luxury for its time. Born into a family deeply rooted in maritime affairs, he inherited his father's legacy and helped expand the company's influence. Ismay proposed the concept of large, supremely comfortable ships that shaped early 20th century ocean travel. J. Bruce Ismay was aboard the Titanic as chairman of the White Star Line, overseeing the ship's maiden voyage and promoting the company's brand image. He traveled with first-class passengers, intending to combine practical inspection with meetings with potential partners. His presence on the voyage also reflected personal pride in what he saw as the greatest achievement of his company. When the Titanic struck the iceberg, J. Bruce Ismay joined an emergency meeting with the captain to assess the damage and help with evacuation efforts. He helped speed up the lowering of lifeboats and tried to reassure passengers. However, his decision to board Collapsible C, while women and children were still on board, caused public outrage. Many believed He should have stayed behind, as the head of the shipping line. After the disaster, Ismay lived in seclusion until his death in 1937.
Number 7.
John Jacob Astor IV, 1864–1912, was one of the wealthiest and most influential figures in early 20th century America, belonging to the prominent Astor family. Born in New York, he was educated at elite schools and inherited a vast fortune from the family's real estate empire. In addition to being a businessman, Astor was an inventor with several patents, including improvements to bicycles and air conditioning systems. He also served in the Spanish-American War with the rank of colonel, contributing both financially and personally to the U.S. military. John Jacob Astor IV boarded the Titanic at Cherbourg, France, as a first-class passenger. He was returning to New York with his second wife, Madeline Talmadge Force, who was pregnant at the time. The purpose of the trip was for Madeline to give birth in the United States. They had just completed an extended vacation in Europe and Egypt. They chose the Titanic for their return journey to enjoy the luxury and comfort of the newest ship. When the Titanic sank, John Jacob Astor IV showed calmness and nobility. He helped his pregnant wife and their maid into a lifeboat. Then he quietly stayed on deck, lit a cigarette, and waited for his fate. His body was found several days later and buried at Trinity Church Cemetery in New York. His actions became a symbol of aristocratic dignity in the Titanic disaster.
Number 8.
Benjamin Guggenheim, 1865–1912, was an American industrialist, mining magnate, and philanthropist. He was one of the most prominent members of the wealthy and influential Guggenheim family. Known for his wealth and lavish lifestyle, he became one of the most famous victims of the Titanic tragedy. His death became a symbol of courage and acceptance of fate in the final moments. Benjamin Guggenheim boarded the Titanic at the port of Cherbourg, France, as a first-class passenger, staying in the luxurious suite B-84. He was accompanied by his mistress, singer Léontine Aubard, his valet Victor Giglio, and chauffeur René Pernot. He was returning to New York after a business and leisure trip across Europe. Choosing the Titanic, the most luxurious and modern ship of its time, reflected his lavish lifestyle and high social status. When the Titanic was in peril, Benjamin Guggenheim first put on a life jacket and helped those with him onto lifeboats. He later changed into formal evening wear, stood on deck with his valet, and said, "We've dressed in our best and are prepared to go down like gentlemen." He refused a place on the lifeboat, giving it up for women and children. His body was never recovered, but his sacrifice became immortal.
Number 9.
Isidor Straus, 1845–1912, was a Bavarian-born American businessman and politician, born in Germany and immigrated to the United States as a child. He began his career in the China trade before co-founding and growing Macy's department store chain with his brother Nathan Straus into one of America's leading retail brands. In addition to being a businessman, he served in the U.S. House of Representatives and was actively involved in philanthropy, especially within the immigrant Jewish community. Isidor and Ida Straus boarded the Titanic in Southampton, England, to return to New York after wintering in the south of France. They had not originally planned to travel on the Titanic and intended to sail on another ship from the Cunard Line. But due to a last-minute change in plans and the Titanic's convenient schedule, they decided to switch ships. They traveled first class, fitting their social status and luxurious lifestyle. When the Titanic was sinking, Isidor Straus firmly refused a lifeboat seat, even though he was offered one. Due to his age and status, he believed women and children should be given priority. His wife Ida also refused to leave without him, saying, "We have lived together, and we shall not part in death." They were last seen holding hands on the deck. Isidor's body was later recovered. Their story became a timeless symbol of love and loyalty.
Number 10.
Ida Straus, 1849–1912, was the wife of businessman Isidor Straus, co-owner of the famous Macy's department store chain in New York. Born in Germany, she married Isidor in 1871 and had 6 children. Throughout her life, Ida remained closely devoted to her husband, not only within the family, but also in social and charitable work. Their deep and lasting love became an ideal model in early 20th century American high society. Ida Straus and her husband, Isidor Straus, boarded the Titanic in Southampton, England. They were returning to New York after wintering in Europe, spending time in the south of France and in Germany. Their decision to take the Titanic was made at the last minute, hoping to return home earlier and resume their active business and social lives. When the Titanic sank, Ida Straus showed calmness, resolve, and steadfast love for her husband. Though offered a seat on a lifeboat, she refused, saying, "We have lived together, and we will not part in death." She gave her coat to her maid and held her husband's hand as they stood together on the deck. Her body was never recovered, but her eternal love and sacrifice are honored at Straus Park in New York, near their former home.
Number 11.
Lady Duff-Gordon, 1863–1935, was a renowned British fashion designer, best known for the Lucille brand. She was one of the leading couturiers in London, Paris, and New York in the early 20th century, shaping trends and styles for the upper class. Her life was a story of creativity, innovation, and deep influence in the fashion industry. Lady Duff-Gordon and her husband boarded the Titanic at Cherbourg with first-class tickets en route to America to manage business matters and expand her brand. As an internationally recognized figure, Lady Duff-Gordon's presence drew significant attention among the passengers. She brought along many fashion designs and notes crucial to her expansion plans in the U.S. When the ship sank, Lady Duff-Gordon and her husband were placed on lifeboat number 1, a boat that carried only 12 people, though it could hold 40. Later, she was accused of bribing crew members not to return for more survivors. Though legally acquitted, her reputation suffered greatly. She died in 1935 in London, leaving behind a legacy of revolutionizing fashion, but forever haunted by the shadow of the Titanic.
Number 12.
Frederick Fleet, 1887–1965, was a British seaman, born in Liverpool and orphaned at a young age. He grew up in a children's home and went to sea at the age of 12, later serving aboard several major ships for the White Star Line. Fleet was regarded as a highly experienced and dedicated lookout. Throughout his maritime career, he maintained strong discipline and deep commitment to life at sea, becoming a quiet yet enduring part of British naval history. Fleet was assigned to watch the bow under poor conditions, most notably without binoculars, a major oversight that night. With limited visibility, he still spotted the danger and did his duty. After the disaster, Fleet kept working for the White Star Line and other shipping companies. But he could never escape the shadow of the Titanic. Frederick Fleet lived on after the Titanic, but the trauma stayed with him. He often described the chilling moment. He saw the iceberg appear out of the darkness, and the helpless feeling as he rang the bell while the ship sped forward. After his wife's death, Fleet fell into deep depression. He died by suicide in 1965, carrying with him a burden of guilt that never faded.
Number 13.
Francis Davis Millet, 1846–1912, was a respected American artist and scholar, born in Massachusetts. He served as a war correspondent during the American Civil War, while still a teenager, and later studied and graduated from Harvard University. Millet was active in various fields, including painting, literature, sculpture, and design. He held key roles in major art institutions and contributed significantly to organizing the 1893 World's Columbian Exposition in Chicago. Francis Millet boarded the Titanic in Cherbourg, France, as a first-class passenger. He was returning to America after working at the American Academy in Rome. He traveled with his close friend, Major Archibald Butt, aide to President Taft. The trip was both professional and deeply personal, reflecting his strong ties in the global art and political world. As the Titanic went down, Francis Millet was seen calmly helping women and children into lifeboats. He is believed to have given away his life jacket. His body was later recovered, with art tools still in his pocket, a quiet symbol of a life devoted to art. In 1913, The Millet Memorial Fountain was erected near the White House to honor their friendship, courage, and lasting legacy.
Number 14.
Archibald Gracie IV, 1858–1912, was an American Army officer and amateur historian, born into a prominent family in Alabama and a descendant of New York Governor Archibald Gracie. He spent many years studying historical events and had a particular passion for the American Civil War. His voyage on the Titanic was both a chance to rest and to continue his research. After surviving the disaster, Gracie became one of the most reliable eyewitnesses to the tragedy. Archibald Gracie IV boarded the Titanic at Southampton as a first-class passenger, staying in cabin C-51. He was returning to the United States after a European trip that combined rest and historical research. Throughout the voyage, Gracie often escorted unaccompanied women and engaged in conversations about the American Civil War, a subject he was especially passionate about. With his engaging storytelling and courteous manner, Gracie quickly became well known among the ship's upper-class passengers. When the Titanic sank, Archibald Gracie bravely assisted women and children onto lifeboats, only leaving the ship when water flooded the deck. He survived by clinging to an overturned, collapsible raft, though his health deteriorated after prolonged exposure to the freezing water. In the final months of his life, he wrote The Truth About the Titanic, one of the most detailed and authentic accounts of the disaster. Gracie passed away at the end of 1912, just 8 months after the sinking.
Number 15.
Harold Sidney Bride, 1890–1956, was a British wireless operator, born in London and trained at the prestigious Marconi Company. Before joining the Titanic, he had served on several ships to hone his telegraphy skills. In 1912, at the age of 22, Bride was appointed as the assistant wireless operator on the Titanic, working with one of the most advanced communication systems of the time. Harold Bride boarded the Titanic in Belfast as the junior wireless operator under Jack Phillips. He was stationed in the Marconi wireless room near the ship's bridge on the second-class deck. His duties included handling messages for passengers and receiving maritime signals. He was part of the team that operated Titanic's advanced Marconi system. As the Titanic sank, Harold Bride stayed at his post, despite a leg injury. He and Jack Phillips kept sending distress calls until water entered the wireless room. Bride survived by holding on to an overturned lifeboat. After the disaster, he testified in official inquiries, continued working for Marconi, and later served in World War I. In the film Titanic, 1997, he was portrayed as a symbol of quiet dedication.
Number 16.
Jack Phillips, 1887–1912, was the chief wireless operator on the Titanic. Born in Farncombe, England, after studying at Godalming School, he joined the Marconi Company in 1906 and was soon assigned to major ships such as the Teutonic and Lusitania, With his extensive experience and exceptional skills, Phillips was chosen for the vital role aboard the Titanic on its maiden voyage. Jack Phillips boarded the Titanic in Belfast as the senior wireless operator. He was transferred from another White Star Line ship due to his outstanding skills and experience. He worked in the wireless room, on the second-class deck, near the bridge. His duties included managing communications, handling passenger messages, and receiving maritime transmissions. When the ship struck the iceberg, he and Harold Bride sent out distress signals until the final moments. As the Titanic sank, Jack Phillips remained calm and astonishingly professional. He sent CQD and SOS signals with Harold Bride, even as water flooded the room. He never left his post and worked until the very end. He died in the disaster, and his body was never found. In 1913, a memorial was built in his hometown of Godalming, Surrey, honoring him as one of Titanic's silent heroes.
Number 17.
Lawrence Beesley, 1877-1967, was a British science teacher and scholar, born in Derby. He attended Derby School in the early 1890s and later graduated with a degree in natural sciences from Emmanuel College, University of Cambridge, in 1900. After completing his studies, he taught physics at Dulwich College in London, earning recognition for his sharp intellect and effective teaching methods. Lawrence Beesley boarded the Titanic in Southampton as a second-class passenger. He was traveling to America to visit relatives and rest after years of teaching. Thoughtful, calm, and curious, he closely observed every detail, from the ship's design to daily passenger life. These reflections became the heart of his well-known memoir. When the Titanic sank, Lawrence Beesley stayed remarkably calm. He quietly watched the chaos with the eyes of a scholar and boarded lifeboat number 13 when the chance came without panic. After surviving, he quickly wrote down his story in a deeply human memoir. Beesley died in 1967 at the age of 89.
Number 18.
Robert Hichens, 1882-1940, was a British sailor, born in the fishing village of Newlyn, Cornwall. He studied at the Truro Nautical College, where he was trained in navigation and ship-handling skills. Hichens began his seafaring life at the age of 16 and gained experience over many years working on merchant and fishing vessels. In 1911, he joined the White Star Line, and by April 1912 was appointed quartermaster on the Titanic. Robert Hichens was assigned as the helmsman of the Titanic on the fateful night of April 14th. When given the emergency order to change course, he followed the correct procedures, but was unable to avoid the collision due to the ship's close proximity to the iceberg. After the impact, Hichens was placed in charge of lifeboat number 6 and continued his duties amid the chaos and despair. When the Titanic sank, Robert Hichens survived in lifeboat number 6, but he was criticized for refusing to return and rescue more people. He argued it would overload the boat and cause it to capsize. His actions sparked a fierce dispute with Margaret "Molly" Brown. Though he denied the accusations, his cold demeanor and lack of compassion made him a target of lasting debate. After the disaster, his life unraveled with legal troubles. He died in 1940.
Number 19.
Charles Lightoller, 1874–1952, was a British naval officer born in Lancashire. He began his seafaring career at the age of 13 and quickly proved his abilities through numerous international voyages, joining the White Star Line in 1900. Lightoller stood out for his disciplined manner, solid experience, and leadership skills, becoming one of the most respected officers in early 20th century British maritime service. Charles Lightoller served as second officer. On the Titanic, he oversaw the night watch on April 14th and supervised the launching of lifeboats. With years of experience and having survived past shipwrecks, he was responsible for passenger safety. But no one knew the Titanic would become the ultimate test of his life. As the Titanic went down, Charles Lightoller showed courage and strict discipline. He enforced the rule, women and children first, and refused a seat in the lifeboats. Swept into the sea, he survived by holding on to an overturned lifeboat. After the disaster, he served in both world wars. He is remembered as a resilient witness to the Titanic, even though no statue bears his name.
Number 20.
Edith Eileen Brown, 1896–1997, was one of the last survivors of the Titanic disaster, and the last to be born in the 19th century. She was only 15 years old when the ship sank. The tragedy took her father's life and left her with memories that never faded. She became a key witness, often sharing her story to make sure the Titanic was never forgotten. Edith Brown boarded the Titanic in Southampton with her parents, Thomas and Elizabeth. They were second-class passengers, leaving South Africa for Seattle. Her father planned to open a hotel and start over. The journey was filled with hopes and dreams of a better future in America. When the Titanic went down, Edith Brown was terrified but stayed calm beside her mother. In the chaos, they were placed in lifeboat number 14. Her father, Thomas Brown, remained on board, giving his spot to someone else. From the boat, Edith looked back and saw her father one last time, surrounded by flare and cries for help. That moment stayed with her forever. Later in life, she attended many Titanic memorials and was mentioned in the film Titanic, 1997. She passed away in 1973. This video is a heartfelt tribute to the souls who now rest forever in the depths of the ocean. Though the Titanic lies deep beneath the frigid sea, The stories and memories of that fateful voyage continue to live on through time. Every life, whether noble or unknown, contributed to a poignant chapter in history. We hope that through these reimagined images, you felt the breath of the past and a glimpse of their spirit. Thank you for honoring these memories with us. See you in the next videos. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, don't hesitate to share it with your friends and hit subscribe so you won't miss our next exciting content.